The devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Γιατί αναφέρει το διάβολο τώρα?
Think you're the devil himself.
Κόλλησε.
I know, but I do have a good mirror.
Τι εννοεί έχω καλό καθρέφτη? Τι θέλει να πει?
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Όπως ξέρετε όλοι και όλες, φίλες και φίλοι, έχει γίνει πανικός με τα αρχεία του Epstein και όσοι θεωρήθηκαν συνωμοσιολόγοι λένε πως βγήκαν αληθινοί. Πρόκειται για 3,5 εκατομμύρια έγγραφα. Μένει να αποκαλυφθούν πάρα πολλά πράγματα. Ποιος ο λόγος για τον οποίο βγήκαν τώρα δεν το ξέρει κανείς. Υπήρχε το Transparency Act, ας πούμε, όπου έπρεπε να τα απελευθερώσουν, αλλά για ποιο λόγο τα απελευθέρωσαν όλα, ή τα απελευθέρωσαν μάλλον όλα, ή κρύβουν κι άλλα. Πάρα πολλά ονόματα φαίνεται να έχουν κρυφτεί, από την άλλη πάρα πολλά ονόματα έχουν αποκαλυφθεί. Ο κόσμος όμως περισσότερο στηρίζεται, έχει επικεντρωθεί και έχει εστιάσει στο Baal, σε εκείνο τον τραπεζικό λογαριασμό που γράφει Baal name και έχει να κάνει με τη θεότητα Baal, τέλος πάντων, αν και η επίσημη εξήγηση είναι ότι είχε η σάρωση χαλάσει και αντί για bank name δεν ήταν ευκρινής και έγραφε Baal, ας πούμε. Όμως υπάρχουν αναφορές εδώ και πάρα πολλούς μήνες, βασικά εδώ και χρόνια, αλλά τους τελευταίους μήνες τέλος πάντων έχει αποκαλυφθεί η πιθανή ύπαρξη μιας τεράστιας σκοτεινής σατανιστικής οργάνωσης, πείτε το έτσι, στην Αμερική και ίσως και αλλού, που λέγεται Cult of Baal, η αίρεση του Baal. Αυτό το είπε πριν από μερικούς μήνες και μια υποτιθέμενη ανιψιά, δεν ξέρω αν είναι, του ίδιου του Jeffrey Epstein, η οποία ανέλησε το βάθος αυτής της αίρεσης, τι κάνει και για ποιο λόγο το κάνει. Οπότε τα πράγματα φαίνεται να είναι πολύ σκοτεινά και θα πάμε να δούμε 2-3 βιντεάκια τα οποία παρομοιάζουν τον Epstein με τον ίδιο το διάβολο ή έναν εκ των αρχηγών, τέλος πάντων, της αίρεσης αυτής. Δεν ξέρω τι ισχύει, υποθέτω ότι τα πράγματα είναι πάρα πολύ σοβαρά, γίνονται ακόμη σοβαρότερα, αλλά οι αποκαλύψεις θα είναι πολλές και συνεχόμενες και σίγουρα έχουν σκοτεινές προεκτάσεις. Οπότε θα πάμε να δούμε την ανάλυση αυτών των πραγμάτων, πώς ξεδιπλώνεται αυτή η σκοτεινή αίρεση, αν και εφόσον υπάρχει, μέσα από τη δράση, την ιδεχθή και αποτρόπαιη δράση του Jeffrey Epstein και όλων αυτών που έκαναν παρέα μαζί του, πήγαιναν στις επαύλεις του κτλ. Μην ξεχνάτε, κάντε ένα like, στηρίζει πραγματικά την προσπάθεια. Όσοι είστε καινούργοι, κάντε μια εγγραφή, είναι δωρεάν, προκειμένου να μην χάνετε τις νέες σχεδόν καθημερινές εκπομπές και πολύ ενδιαφέρουσες εκπομπές που παρεμβαίνουν στο κανάλι σχετικά με το ανεξήγητο, το παραφυσικό και την έρευνα του αγνώστου. Σήμερα θα συζητήσουμε για ακόμα μια φορά για το θέμα που είναι το θέμα των ημερών και θα συζητιέται για πολύ καιρό, γιατί τα τόσα εκατομμύρια έγγραφα κρύβουν πάρα πολλά πράγματα που ακόμα δεν έχουν αποκαλυφθεί όλα, σιγά σιγά αποκαλύπτονται. Πάμε να δούμε. Εδώ έχουμε ένα βίντεο λοιπόν το οποίο κυκλοφόρησε πριν από 5 μέρες από το Sky News, το Αυστραλιανό, και αναρωτιούνται ο δημοσιογράφος που συναντήθηκε με τον Jeffrey Epstein πριν πεθάνει, πριν υποτίθεται αφαιρέσει τη ζωή του, γιατί πολλοί λένε ότι τον έφαγαν, άλλοι λένε ότι ζει ακόμη. Υπάρχει και μια θεωρία συνωμοσίας που λέει ότι ζει ακόμη και ότι έχει κρυφτεί και είναι πράκτορας της Mossad κτλ. Πάμε να δούμε, έχει ενδιαφέρον.
New footage has emerged in the Jeffrey Epstein files showing the convicted pedophile being interviewed and asked whether he is the devil.
Να πούμε ότι έχει και πάρα πολλά βίντεο, δεν θυμάμαι, 180.000 βίντεο, δεν ξέρω τι δείχνουν, κανείς δεν ξέρει τι δείχνουν, έτσι.
It's unknown when the interview was actually filmed, but the material is one of thousands of videos released by the US Department of Justice. Paul Kelso reports.
Latest tranche of Epstein files from the Department of Justice contains around 3 million documents, thousands of still photographs and hundreds of hours of video recordings, and among them appear to be at least some of extended interviews between Epstein and Steve Bannon, a right-wing pundit in the United States, former strategist working at the White House in Donald Trump's first term. He's previously talked about conducting around 15 hours of interview with Epstein. They've not previously been aired in any extended form, but there's a couple of hours of what appears to be some of those videos in these latest releases, and we can play a couple of minutes of that now, in which Epstein discusses being a sex offender.
Ελπίζω να με αφήσει να το δείξω.
Is your money dirty money?
If you live,
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
no, it's not. So, in fact,
Why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it. A heart.
But you earned it. We went back to this before. You earned
Yes.
it. You earned it advising the.
Γελάει κιόλας. Δηλαδή του λένε κέρδισες τα λεφτά με αυτόν τον τρόπο, κάνοντας τράφικινγκ παιδάκια κτλ. Και ποιος ξέρει τι άλλο, θυσίες, ξέρω εγώ τι.
Worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
Do you think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no
Why?
question. Because I think you have to, ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if...
Προσπαθεί να εξηλαιωθεί επειδή δώρισε κάποια λεφτά στην έρευνα για την πολιομελίτιδα. Δεν το καταλαβαίνω.
Epstein should have...
Τι προσπαθούσε να κάνει ο τύπος?
Help these people.
Είναι βέβαιο ότι οι χειρότεροι εγκληματίες και τα χειρότερα καθάρματα σε αυτόν τον κόσμο κάνουν δωρεές. Είναι ξεκάθαρο.
If we walked in, you're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from a, what are you, class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Προσέχτε, λέει τρίτης κατηγορίας κακοποιητής και αυτός λέει πρώτης βαθμίδας. Δηλαδή τι το έχουν βαθμολογήσει, έχουν βαθμίδες, τι είναι? Αν όχι αίρεση, οι αιρέσεις, τα τάγματα, οι στρατιωτικές μονάδες, αυτά έχουν βαθμίδες. Και αυτός λέει πρώτη βαθμίδα.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest.
Και ποιοι είναι οι ανώτεροι, αν αυτός είναι ο χαμηλότερος? Τι να πω?
But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them...
Όχι, δεν ξέρανε, προφανώς και δεν ξέρανε.
If I told them the devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Γιατί αναφέρει το διάβολο τώρα?
Think you're the devil himself.
Κόλλησε.
I know, but I do have a good mirror.
Τι εννοεί έχω καλό καθρέφτη? Τι θέλει να πει?
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Γιατί το λες αυτό, το ρώτησε.
Now, these latest files also contain fresh documents appearing to relate to Lord Mandelson, the former British ambassador to Washington, sacked by Sir Keir Starmer back in November when a previous release of documents suggested he had not been straight about the extent of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, these...
Φανταστείτε πόσα πρόσωπα, πόσες και εδώ στην Ελλάδα. Δεν το έχω αποκαλύψει, ενώ δεν το έχω παρουσιάσει εδώ στο κανάλι. Αλλά πόσες χιλιάδες πρόσωπα από όλες τις χώρες είχε πολιτική επιρροή, γεωπολιτική επιρροή. Και ως πράκτορας κιόλας. Ένας τέτοιος τύπος. Μιας τέτοιας αίρεσης, αν υποθέσουμε ότι ισχύει αυτή η αίρεση. Πάμε να δούμε το επόμενο βίντεο και θα καταλάβετε.
Right now, everyone is looking deep into the Epstein files and trying to discover what really happened on the infamous island.
Προσέχτε, αυτό είναι πριν 6 μήνες, πριν βγουν τα έγγραφα, έτσι.
We want to know who are Jeffrey's accomplices and what they were up to. But while the public is demanding names, the leaders of our country are trying their hardest to cover all of this up, trying to get us to move on and forget about the horrors Epstein did to so many people. But thankfully, this has only encouraged those who were victims of Epstein to come out and speak out and tell their story before it's too late. And this is exactly what this woman is claiming, stating that she's Epstein.
Αυτή είναι, υποτίθεται, δήλωσε η ίδια ότι είναι ανιψιά του Epstein. Υπάρχει ολόκληρο το podcast στο οποίο μιλάει και θα το δείξω λίγο γιατί είναι τεράστιο, είναι 1,5 ώρα. Μπορείτε να το δείτε, θα το έχω στην περιγραφή. Αυτή αποκάλυψε αρκετά πράγματα πριν τις αποκαλύψεις των εγγράφων και φαίνεται να επιβεβαιώνεται με τον Baal και αυτά.
Niece and telling her story for the first time in an interview. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back. Some of you guys should remember that a few months back, I did a video about a woman named Anya who claimed to not only be Epstein's niece, but also be Shia LaBeouf's secret twin brother. Many of you in the
Η δίδυμη του Shia LaBeouf, μυρίζει λίγο η δουλειά, αλλά τέλος πάντων, πάμε.
comments of that video were kind of suspicious of Anya and didn't truly believe her story. For those that don't remember Anya, she made a series of TikTok videos where she made some serious allegations where she claimed that she was Shila's twin sister that was separated at birth and that she was related being the niece of Epstein. According to her, she went through serious abuse growing up in her family because of their connections to the occult and their connections to the Epstein Island. In these videos, she threatened to expose everything she knew and even stated that she met many people who were close to Epstein and even met Epstein himself. She believed that she was put through abuse by her family, but then was put under MK Ultra to forget everything she knows. Anya was posting videos on TikTok telling her entire story when one of them went viral and everyone started.
Δεν ξέρω κατά πόσο ισχύει αν η κοπέλα αυτή πήρε την ιστορία και γνώριζε ότι εμπλεκόταν ο Epstein με κάποιο τρόπο, είχε ακούσει σχετικά με την αίρεση του Baal και τα λοιπά, γιατί είναι γνωστό, έχει κυκλοφορήσει εδώ και πολύ καιρό, πριν δηλαδή το έγγραφο με την τράπεζα και ίσως το πήρε και το διαστρέβλωσε. Αλλά θα σας δείξω και το podcast.
Asking questions. Now recently, she actually went and did an interview with Sean Atwood.
Αυτή είναι η συνέντευξη που σας είπα.
Where she tells her story and explains her connection to Epstein. Now, during the interview, Anya says some things that caught my attention, and I'm not gonna lie, it did raise some suspicions to me, and it makes me wonder how much of her story is true or just false memories that she's misremembering, or if this entire story is a lie. Let's get into some of the things she said in the interview. The first thing I wanted to talk about was her bringing up the code of Baal. According to Anya,
Το Baal, όχι την μπάλα, γιατί η μετάφραση είναι χάλια. Για τον Baal μιλάει. Ωραία.
she claims that these elite aren't a part of the Illuminati, but are all a part of the code of Baal. For those
Της αίρεσης του Baal, cult of Baal, όχι το κώδικα του Baal, της αίρεσης του Baal.
who don't know, Baal is an ancient pagan god that is spoken about in the Bible. When this god is brought up in the Bible, he's referred to as the god of child sacrifice, as many back then used to offer their firstborn child for financial blessings to be
Αυτό το είπαμε και προχτές στην εκπομπή που κάναμε, ωραία. Με όλες τις συνωμοσίες που ακούγονται και φαίνεται να επιβεβαιώνονται για τον Jeffrey Epstein.
able to become financially stable. Back then in those days, so many people would offer up their child, believing it would bring them these financial blessings. And if we pay attention, this is exactly what continue on into our current life.
They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal.
Στην αίρεση του Baal, όχι της μπάλας. Γαμώ το κέρατο για μετάφραση.
Apostrophe A-L. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not. This is what people perceive the Illuminati to be. It is a group of elites that practices forced and uses these crimes to control people. They happen to have a huge reach over politics and entertainment. My great-grandfather, according to my father, was Walt Disney. Before he moved to the United States, his name
Τώρα λέει αλήθεια αυτή η κοπέλα και μπορεί και τα λέει έτσι. Δεν ξέρω. Για να δούμε.
was Artur Bick, Arturbice. And his twin sister, who he had children with, who I am descended from, was named Minnie. That's where we get Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It's very cute, right? Except for when you consider the abuse that I suspect is still happening to children who go into the entertainment industry. Children who are born into it.
Αυτό δεν είναι ψέμα. Δεν είναι ψέμα.
As you heard for yourself, Anya claims that what people think is the Illuminati is actually the code of Baal. Now, in ways, she's kind of right.
Η αίρεση του Baal, έτσι, όχι κώδικα. Όπου βλέπετε κώδικα της μπάλας, αίρεση του Baal.
But I believe she's also a bit misinformed. The Illuminati is a real organization that was created in the 1700s by Adam Weishaupt, and it was modeled after Freemasonry. Eventually, the Illuminati merged with Masonry when Adam Weishaupt joined the Masonic Lodge, trying to learn their rituals in order to incorporate it in his Illuminati organization. The Illuminati eventually made it to the tippity top of Masonry, with members like Albert Pike being a part of the Illuminati. And eventually, in Masonry, in order to be a part of the Illuminati, you had to go through the Scottish Rite system and climb up to the very top. The Illuminati is a part of Masonry, and Freemasonry at certain levels does worship Baal, but realistically they channel Baal. Same thing how they channel Lucifer. Masonry incorporates many pagan and Kabbalistic teachings into their teachings and repackages it as Masonry. So in a way, Anya is right. These people do worship the code of Baal, but she's wrong when she claims that the Illuminati or the illuminated ones are the good ones, like she compares to Kanye West. This is completely wrong and she's misinformed. The Illuminati's main goal was to separate church from state and stop the religious influence on the world. They wanted to separate man from God and they wanted man to abandon God, which they eventually...
Όχι ακριβώς, αλλά οκ. Ήταν διαφορετική η έναρξή τους. Μετά άλλαξε.
Succeeded in throughout the years, as people nowadays have gotten further and further away from God. The Illuminati isn't a good organization, and to be illuminated isn't a positive thing. What they refer to being illuminated is a practice through sex magic where they achieve enlightenment through these sex magic rituals. Now, the code of Baal does exist, but like I said, more incorporated into these massive secret societies like Masonry, the Skull and Bones, which is also a part of Masonry. Masonry seems to be the foundation of all of these secret societies, and the Code of Baal, which is ancient, just lives within these secret societies. One of the things that Anya said in the interview that completely caught me off guard was the fact that she claimed that Epstein was forced to participate in all the occult practices on this island, claiming that he wasn't the main man pulling the strings and instead was just an unwilling participant that was made to participate in these rituals for his elite status. Take a listen.
So you're saying that Jeffrey wasn't involved in the full-on occult practices. He was just part of a machine, and then they just used him to make an example out of?
He was involved in the full-on occult practices, but not necessarily of his own volition. Jeffrey may have been involved in the full-on occult practices, but he's not one of the hardcore of this sickness where they are actually attracted to small children.
Now, this is one point of the interview that I couldn't agree with at all. Epstein was definitely a willing participant, and he was one of those pulling the strings behind the scenes. Epstein was definitely deeply involved in the occult, and I don't believe no one forced him to do it. I believe he was using these occult practices like many other elite members to further his career and further his power here on Earth. Remember, it was believed that Epstein was accused of blackmailing his clients, keeping their names and records of the crimes they did on his island in order to force them to do things he wanted. It's also pretty clear when you take a look at his island that he was deeply involved in the occult, and this is an island he created for himself.
Ναι, το νησί έχει κάποιες ιδιαιτερότητες, ίσως το δούμε σε ένα άλλο επεισόδιο, αλλά οκ, πάμε.
Specifically his bathhouse, which is connected to the occult and also connected to Baal worship. Also this random statue that he had on his island. All of this clearly indicates that Epstein was deeply involved in the occult. and his practices were heavily rooted in alchemy and sex magic. That's why he was utilizing young victims for his rituals, because in the occults, specifically in these sex magic practices, they believe the younger the victim is, the more life essence that is released. I do not believe Epstein was forced to do anything, and I cannot agree with Anya here. I think that she's misinformed, and honestly, this seems to poke holes in the rest of her story, as if she can't see that Epstein was deeply rooted in the occult and was doing this for his own benefit. She's missing half the story. Now, something else that Anya said that was truly interesting was that she believes that many of these Hollywood stars that end up on Disney were a part of these secret societies, were born into these secret societies through their parents.
I was raised going to these giant where I would meet other children who were put on television.
Σαν να κομπιάζει όμως, σαν να μην μπορεί να τα πει. Δεν ξέρω. Εσείς τι πιστεύετε?
My twin brother was raised on the Disney Channel. That was painful for me. We were separated when we were 4, and I didn't see him until he was on TV. With the pilot episode in which he pimps out his sister for a trading card. And there's a sequence of shots where the words Royal Tycoon flash on screen, followed by a clip of the gross nerdy boy he tricks into going on a date with, plunging himself into a baby's crib.
As you heard for yourself, she claimed that her alleged brother Shia LaBeouf was sent to Disney because he was a part of this secret society system, and this is where all the kids end up.
Καλά, είναι γεγονός ότι είναι ψιλοκατεστραμμένος ο Shia LaBeouf, πώς λέγεται, LaBeouf, ξέρω εγώ. Είναι κατεστραμμένο το παλικάρι. Δεν το λες και το πιο normal άτομο στον κόσμο.
Now, while Anya doesn't provide any proof, my research does indicate that Disney is directly connected to Masonry. Walt Disney himself was a member of the youth organization, the Demolay. The Demolay was created to basically groom kids and prepare them to be full Masons when they're older. It's like military school, but for Masonry, where, you know, when you're a kid, you join military school and you learn all the basics in the military, and it eventually helps you in your military career. The Demolay is essentially a youth Masonic organization to groom kids to be Masons when they're older. Walt Disney was a part of the first chapter of the Demolay, and he grew up a part of the Demolay. It was never confirmed that he joined Masonry, but it's pretty obvious if you're a member of the Demolay, there's a 99% chance that you're going to become a Mason by the time you become 21, because that is the purpose of being in the Demolay. Now, Disney actually incorporated the Demolay with Disney. Walt Disney even made a Mickey Mouse comic that was based on Mickey Mouse being a part of the Demolay. So her claims that these Disney celebrities are groomed by these secret societies and then are forced into there,
Πάρα πολύ πιθανό.
I completely believe it. There's a clear connection between the Demolay and Masonry. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the biggest stars on Disney Channel were members of the Demolay. This is something that I believe for many years now, and there seems to be a lot of evidence that suggests it to be true. Now, one thing that Anya said that was interesting was that not every single person a part of this cult that was doing things to these minors were doing it willingly. She claims that some of these people were forced, even detailing a situation where they were forced on her and the person didn't want to do it.
I have memories of men being forced to assault me when they didn't want to. I remember one man, this brilliant comedic actor, actually has better dramatic work.
Μήπως ότι μιλάει για τον Ρόμπιν Βίλιαμς, γιατί αυτός μου έρχεται στο μυαλό.
Screaming at him, telling him to...
As you heard for yourself, Anya claims that on orders of her own father, this man SA'd her to be a part of this cult. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe this does happen, but I don't think that this happens in the level of Epstein. When you get around people like Epstein and the elite of this world, you're already down with the system. You're down with the program. You're not there for the first time experiencing what these people are involved with. You've already done so many things to get there that you already know that this is exactly how these people get down. So this part made zero sense to me. I do not believe that someone will be brought up to Epstein and be forced to participate in the activities that Epstein was known to do. I'm pretty sure that if they were around Epstein, they were already down with the system. That's the only way you would even get in the same room as someone like that. And I also don't believe that it was just random people being able to meet someone like Epstein. Epstein was at the top of the pyramid. He was essentially being used for...
Αμφιβάλλω αν ήταν στην κορυφή της πυραμίδας, αλλιώς δεν θα τον έπιαναν. Εγώ αμφιβάλλω εδώ. Δεν νομίζω να ήταν στην κορυφή της πυραμίδας. Είναι άλλη στην κορυφή της πυραμίδας και ίσως πολύ χειρότερη από αυτό το απόβρασμα.
Or this trafficking organization that benefited the true elite of this world. He was not hanging out with some random Joe Schmoes who are low.
Μπορεί να έκανε παρέα με την elite, δεν έχει καμία σημασία. Άλλοι ήταν από πάνω του.
Members of these secret societies.
Γι' αυτό αυτός πιάστηκε για τα όσα έκανε, τέλος πάντων, να μην τα χαρακτηρίσω.
He was hanging out with the top.
Άλλοι όμως που θα έπρεπε να είναι και αυτοί μαζί του δεν πιάστηκαν. Κυκλοφορούν ακόμα ελεύθεροι.
Tier people who actually have control over this world. So here, this is one of the points where I believe Anya seems to be misinformed. Another thing that Anya brought up was meeting President Bill Clinton at the Bohemian Grove. Take a listen to what she said.
It tells a story about the Clintons at Bohemian Grove. Did you have any experience of the Clintons or about Bohemian Grove?
I have met both of them and their daughters at Bohemian Grove and at resorts in Colorado. They loved going to ski lodges in the off season. They were not there in Aspen 2007 after the comedy festival. That's when I remember most vividly. But it's all fuzzy. I don't know if we were in Steamboat or in Breckenridge, but I've met them a few times and boasted all the time about how well she got along with Bill. She boasted about that even when we were sober.
So Bill tried to distance himself from Jeffrey. Do you think there was a lot more going on between them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't tell you what exactly, but Bill was on the flight logs because he went to the island. He also went to many, many other places where me and other children were present. It's just fact.
Now, in this situation, I believe Anya is misinformed again. She claims to have been taken to the Bohemian Grove, and she claims that she met Clinton and his daughters all at the Bohemian Grove. The only problem is...
Να πάτε να δείτε την εκπομπή που έκανα για το Bohemian Grove και ένα πιτσιρικά που είχε μπει μέσα και τότε με τον Alex Jones τι είχε γίνει, να πάτε να το δείτε.
That the Bohemian Grove is a man-only retreat. And usually, they're not going to bring in women. From all the research I've done, I've actually done videos covering the Bohemian Grove. The only women that are likely there are staff. The retreat is a man-only retreat where these men gather and have secret meetings and they do perform...
Ναι, αλλά σου λέει ότι είχε κοριτσάκια για εκμετάλλευση. Τι δεν κατάλαβες. Τέλος πάντων, δεν ξέρω.
Secret rituals, but I do not think because of the level of attention the Bohemian Grove already has, everybody knows that the Bohemian Grove is utilized by the elite. I don't think they do anything physical and real there. Like I broke down before, they do this cremation of care ritual there.
Έχουν ένα τελετουργικό, μια θυσία στο μολόχ, αλλά όχι αληθινή.
Because we know that they do this cremation of care ritual there, I don't believe that they use a real person. Now, that doesn't mean that these people don't actually perform these real rituals elsewhere, because I believe they do. I believe that they use the Bohemian Grove for his importance and his history and significance to make these mock sacrifices, which they then complete in other areas. Places where people do not expect, like Jack Parsons' abandoned rocket facility, which I covered not long ago, on how it was being used for sacrifices. So I honestly don't believe that Anya was taken to the Bohemian Grove. Maybe she's just misremembering things or just adding things in there for dramatic effect. She also claims that she was put under MK Ultra, which could indicate why she doesn't really remember things or is, saying the things that she's saying. I do not like to discredit any victims and I...
Καλά, το πρόγραμμα MK Ultra υποτίθεται ότι σταμάτησε στα τέλη της δεκαετίας του 90. Δεν ξέρω, η ιστορία της είναι λίγο μπλεγμένη, αλλά σίγουρα έχει ενδιαφέρον μετά τις τελευταίες αποκαλύψεις, για την τράπεζα Baal name.
And I don't understand why anybody would make anything up, but we do live in 2025 where people are known to lie just for attention and clout. And I'm not saying that's what Anya's doing. I'm just saying that parts of her story doesn't make sense. When I covered her originally, she didn't give up much, and what she said was, caught my interest, but there wasn't any evidence to suggest what she was saying was true. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because she claimed she was going to do interviews, and I was expecting these interviews to be full of evidence. For example, I just did a video on an Epstein victim where she came out and made claims herself, but I was able to validate that she was truly an Epstein victim. She received a settlement from the Epstein estate and from Chase. She was also a verified model, which is why she ended up with Epstein to begin with. So I was able to validate her claims, at least to the point where she was actually around Epstein and was actually a victim. But Anya, I don't find any evidence, and I honestly, I can't find anything to prove her story.
Ναι, δεν ξέρουμε αν είναι αληθινή η ιστορία της, αλλά τα αρχεία που βγήκαν έχουν την ονομασία Baal μέσα. Τώρα κατά πόσο είναι σύμπτωση ή όχι, αυτό θα το κρίνει η ιστορία. Και όλες οι υπόλοιπες αποκαλύψεις, έτσι.
Claims that they forged her birth records, and a lot of the times when she's going into her story, she claims that she doesn't remember and she forgot, which could be a side effect of MK Ultra. But honestly, right now I do not know what to believe with this woman, and I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe Anya? I'm not discrediting her. If she's a victim, more power to her. I want her to be able to be protected, and I want her to be able to feel safe and say her story. But I would also prefer if she was able to provide some evidence that would suggest what she's saying is true, Either way, I pray for her safety.
Λοιπόν, πάμε να δούμε. Εδώ είναι η ουσιαστική συνέντευξη. Θα την έχω στην περιγραφή, δεν θα τη δούμε αναλυτικά γιατί είναι τεράστια, είναι 1,5 ώρα. Αν βρίσκετε κάποιο ενδιαφέρον στην ιστορία της Άνια, αν πιστεύετε ότι ίσως έχει κάποια ψήγματα αλήθειας, μπορείτε να πάτε να την παρακολουθήσετε, βάλτε τους αυτόματους υπότιτλους, θα καταλάβετε πράγματα όσοι δεν ξέρετε αγγλικά. Γιατί έχει ενδιαφέρον, γιατί σχετίζεται με τις πρόσφατες αποκαλύψεις μέσα στα 3,5 εκατομμύρια έγγραφα, φωτογραφίες, βίντεο κτλ. Σίγουρα υπάρχει παρασκήνιο, σίγουρα γίνεται χαμός, σίγουρα επιβεβαιώνονται πολλές θεωρίες συνωμοσίας που μέχρι πρότινος ήταν τρελές και όσοι τις έλεγαν θεωρήθηκαν τρελοί κτλ. Και παρανοϊκοί και ψεκ. Θα δούμε κι άλλα επεισόδια, όχι από μένα εννοώ, θα δούμε κι άλλα, θα έχει κι άλλα τεύχη αυτή η σειρά, αυτό το σκηνικό, αυτές οι αποκαλύψεις. Και κάποιοι θα πέσουν και από τα σύννεφα, και για το ποιοι συμμετείχαν και για το τι συνέβαινε εκεί πέρα και για προεκτάσεις που δεν είναι μόνο στην Αμερική, ίσως είναι και στην Ελλάδα. Λοιπόν, πείτε μου τη γνώμη σας με σχόλιο κάτω από αυτή την εκπομπή. Να είστε όλοι καλά και θα τα ξαναπούμε όπως πάντα στο επόμενο επεισόδιο.